Hello. This video was supposed to be a simple review between my ongoing, ever-expanding Harry Potter projects. It was on a movie that I saw in 2020 called 365 Days, about a woman falling in love with a mob boss after he kidnaps her. It was the worst movie I saw in 2020, and it was probably the second most irresponsible thing Netflix put out that year after Cuties, but I didn't see that one. Sadly, getting this video to just stay up became a waking nightmare because of copyright claims. I have re-edited and uploaded this video several times only to have it universally blocked. Yeah, not even, okay, you can have it up, but give us all the money. No, blocked. When I filed the disputes, they were rejected in 10 to 20 minutes, so I would retool and try again, and they would get rejected just as fast. When I filed a formal appeal on their decision, they waited until the last day before the appeal expired, the 29th day, to reject me. I know there are people in my audience that just play my videos in the background while they're tabbed over, so for you, this video doesn't really change at all. Whenever, if ever, I can show you the lovely editing Oliver's Piece and I did on this video, it will be in the pinned comment below. But for now, we must return to Monkey. Lord forgive me, but it's time to go back to the old me. I'm bringing back Slime Rancher. It's hilarious how in my old intro, I thought nips were gonna be the thing to get me. Oh no, I should have foreseen it was going to be copyright. Warning, this video picks apart a movie that contains content like domestic abuse and slurs against Italians? Dear audience, I have this little personality quirk. I mean, nobody's without their little idiosyncrasies. I call this quirk, I like getting paid for the things I make. YouTube's algorithm knows my language choice, so in this video, I'm censoring words that aren't even swears, and I'm covering everybody's nips just as a precaution. That being said, you don't want this one on your sleepy time playlist unless you live alone and the only one who can hear me is your cats. Babies! Hi! Kitty kitty. Did they look at the speakers? Complimentary, spoiler-free review, it's really bad. And I can't even say watch it with your friends to make fun of it because that would quickly become very uncomfortable. Doctors Without Borders meet buddies without boundaries. If you seriously feel like this movie could be your thing, I suggest you pull up Instagram on one monitor and search Sicily, tourism, and luxury, and then pull up some indecent images on your second monitor that I know you have because my audience is 90% elite gamers. And that's it, I saved you 2 hours. You're welcome. The best way to do this write-up of 365 Days is actually an old Doug Walker-style review where I rip the movie to ribbons while injecting my essay bits in between the mockery. I usually avoid these, but since, one, the movie starts kinda normal and gets progressively worse with random difficulty spikes of, wow, I can't believe this is real, which is really useful to the structure of a YouTube video and maintaining an audience's attention. Well, I'm just being honest. Virtually every scene in this movie is filled with something dumb. There are weird transitions, dropped plot points, ill-fitting music, hilarious dialogue, pathetic attempts to crib random stuff from 50 Shades of Grey that goes nowhere and serves no purpose, almost like they're trying to do a 50 Shades bingo card. To even try to summarize, misses so much. 365 Days is a movie based off of a trilogy of erotica novels written by a first-time breakout Polish author who was inspired by 50 Shades of Grey. So to be blunt, this is a story written by a novice author inspired by a book that started as an alternative universe fanfiction of the Twilight books. Master of the Universe by Snow Queen's Ice Dragon, aka 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. So, creatively speaking, this is like, let me copy your homework, okay, but change a few things so we don't get caught, but you're cheating off of the student that gets straight D's. So this is backwash, and on top of that, none of the writers or directors are that experienced. The movie is written by 4 people. The author of the trilogy, a man who has written screenplays before for 2 niche television shows, an actor and producer who normally plays small background roles like waiter, writing for the first time while also playing Massimo's cousin, while also being director number 1, and finally, our only hope, a woman who has actually directed movies and shorts and written screenplays and books. She is director number 2, writer number 4. Her most successful project prior to this is her novel-turned-movie, Big Love, about a, quote, 16-year-old girl's poisonous love addiction to a 23-year-old man, unquote. FBI, open up! Her attraction to the project seems primarily rooted in her interest in uneven power dynamics. Friends, we are witnessing the birth of a genre. You remember the dystopian fiction craze, now get ready for Dystopian Boyfriend. I'm going to make fun of this movie a lot because of how scary and annoying Massimo is, but I'm aware that's kinda the point of the movie, and so me just going super omega yikers over and over is kind of patronizing and pointing out water is wet. So we'll pause at specific scenes to discuss why I think this just isn't working. But yeah, up front, you should know Massimo's personality, if it could be called that, is a smoothie made of domestic violence handbooks and Wattpad stories about mobsters. So, despite the heaviness, is it a good movie? Oh, hell no! Our story opens on a building by the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Mobsters are meeting on the roof, and our romantic lead, Massimo, is just chilling in the background like a random unnamed goon. That's definitely a normal, real boy movie way of introducing your romantic lead. Massimo's father is talking to two mobsters who are just balls to the wind, offering him trafficked little girls, some barely older than 12. But this mob boss doesn't traffic little girls, and possibly people at all, I'm not sure, after 5 viewings of this movie. After turning down the traffickers, Massimo's father returns to him and remarks that these guys are assholes, but they're business associates, so they must respect them. Massimo spots our protagonist on the shore giving off serious lady eating a salad by herself energy. And his father remarks that women are heaven for the eyes, hell for the soul, and purgatory for the wallet. What if I told you, in this movie about a woman being kidnapped, where the first scene is about human trafficking, women be shopping is the most enduring takeaway of this scene. Massimo's father tells his son that it's time to stop thinking about fun and pleasure and take on responsibilities, because one day, everything the light touches will be his. Including that woman down there. Then bam, Massimo's father is shot straight through the chest and the bullet penetrates Massimo as well. Dramatic music swells, the bodyguards rush to their side trying to save them, but alas, it's too late. The camera zooms out, my eyes look at the two men that they were just talking to on the roof, but it looks like they're hiding and weren't responsible. I look for the woman on the beach, but I can't find her, even though the camera swoops around the building so much that I should be able to see her. As the bodyguards continue to scramble over Massimo and his father, a romantic pop song starts playing. The song is called Hard For Me, and it's sung by the guy that plays Massimo, so it's kind of like as his father is dying, Massimo just starts singing. It doesn't quite feel right. And the title of the movie emerges from behind the building, much like a creeper. Hi, sisters! Fast forward 5 years later. Now we're in San Francisco, and also Poland. You're probably gonna miss that second one because for some reason we're speaking English in Poland, and the way the scene is shot, it seems like the two situations are connected, but they're actually not. We meet our leading lady, Laura. Well, that's kind of the Americanized way of saying it.
Laura.
Laura. Yeah, my tongue doesn't really want to make that shape, but we're gonna try. Anyway, what were we doing?
My question is, how did it happen?
Sir, you're not plot relevant. Please calm down. The next few minutes is the swooping, dramatic, but ultimately pointless babble about stock numbers, media coverage, shares, and blackmail.
I expect a refund and 5% interest.
It's impossible.
Refund and 10% interest. Until the end of the month.
You should ask Miss Biel. Excuse my language, but you need to have balls to this job. It was possible because of my strategy. Agent X had nothing to do with it. What would your loving husband say about that? Your kids, shareholders.
And then the music comes back when the scene sputters out, and it strangely returns before the contrasting shots of them alone after the meeting is over.
What are you gonna do about my money?
Oh, okay, I thought we were done. I understand the point. They both feel like they're missing something. It's just kind of an awkward transition, the first of many. The story isn't actually about business or crime drama, though. We never come back to San Francisco. I have no idea why we're even here instead of Italy. The only real takeaway from this scene is that Massimo and Laura are cool and kind of intimidating. There's this sort of parallel that makes them seem like equals, like rivals, almost like this is gonna be an enemies to lovers story. But that ain't gonna last, so the real takeaway, in retrospect, is that Laura exists and Massimo is cool. Laura returns home to her boyfriend, whomst is obviously going to be dumped because she's way hotter than him, and he doesn't want to bang! and he tells her to rest up for their plane ride tomorrow because she's gotta rest her weak heart. Little planting and payoff happening there. Oh, and he sends her off to pack their luggage. Massimo is now chilling on a private plane with his Marco and Domenico. Domenico is actually in front of them. The sense of space is really weird in this scene because they never show how close his seat is to Marco's. So when they cut to him, it seems like he's in a different room listening in. I like to think that they locked him in the bathroom. Massimo asks Marco why he's all grumpy grapes, and Marco says that somebody has taken their container of cocaine. Oh, someone has stolen from the mobsters? Or perhaps one of them is a secret thief. They silently ponder this for a moment, and then Massimo gets up. I guess he's gonna get to the bottom of this. He closes the curtain separating him and the flight attendant from the boys. And Massimo decides it's a good idea to get a blowy from the flight attendant, and the missing container of blow is hereafter dropped and never mentioned again. Now begins our first explicit sequence. Laura retreats to her bedroom to be with her massager and beautiful purple lighting with subtle reds and blues. And honestly, her half of this is fine. While the lights are constantly changing and technically coming from nowhere, like 90% of people are never going to notice, and I actually like the song choice here. And then we cut to Massimo in his yellow-ass plane, and it's gonna give you a case of the giggles. Massimo's O-face is hilarious, and he's so rough with the flight attendant. She's just making these loud gurgling noises that become comedic when you remember that Marco and Domenico, possible blood relatives, I'm pretty sure Domenico is confirmed as a cousin, are right on the other side of that curtain. What are you doing? They're less than 4 feet away. That old man doesn't want to hear this. I just like to imagine in my head that Massimo is an exhibitionist and he just lives to expose himself to this old man because it actually happens more than once in this movie. But now we come to our first meta pause. I should probably call it something else. I'm gonna use that satisfying clapping noise from Petscop like Nightmare Masterclass because this movie is my nightmare. I got his permission. I imagine some of you might be thinking, banging an underling whose job it is to be nice to you while she's at work? That's sketchy. Is this movie aware that, buddy, you're playing 4D chess, this movie's eating checkers? You wait, I'll show you how bad consent gets in this movie. Your brain will be leaking out of your nose. You're gonna be walking out of this video upside down on your hands and feet, vomiting like the little girl from The Exorcist. While I was doing research for this video, some pretty cringe descriptions of the production of this movie popped up. Like, for example, Massimo's actor found this the hardest scene to film. And the reason was because the actress had to blow a strap-on he was wearing, and people kept laughing at them. The IMDb for this movie claims that the author of the books offered to do the blowjob scene herself when it came under scrutiny for being controversial. I can't find a source for this I'd trust, but something in my heart just desperately wants for this to be true. A reoccurring thing when reading about the people who worked on this movie is them trying to have fun, falling backwards and failing upwards into lots of money and attention despite the quality of the project. And volunteering as tribute to have sex with your original character as if you playing the flight attendant helps just is the epitome of that. Unlike Erica or Stephanie, Blanca is very confident and aggressively sensual. She is a queen with perfect Instagram scroll game. However, this could also be an offhanded remark, a joke taken too seriously, or a baseless rumor meant to make Blanca look like a weirdo. Either way, follow your bliss. Blow your OC. Okay, so we see Massimo get off the plane, and then we see Laura on the sidewalk with her boyfriend somewhere else. Just like real quick, so fast, definitely not gonna come back to haunt the movie. Then we're at a party, we're celebrating Laura's 29th birthday, and her boyfriend is just, Jesus Christ. He's wearing a fanny pack, he's underdressed compared to everyone else, and oh my god, the waiter brings Laura her favorite drink, and it turns out it's just a coincidence, and he didn't order it. It's like, why get out of bed in the morning if your boyfriend's not a mobster rapist? Like, what are you supposed to do with that? Wait, why is her friend recording herself instead of his speech, and she's not even capturing Laura behind her? What are you recording? So Laura leaves to go to the bathroom, and heading down this dark path, she meets another man she's way too hot for. I'm sorry. Alright, quick, grab something. All hands on deck. Brace yourself.
Are you lost, baby girl?
That's gut liquefying levels of cringe. Oh shit, where'd he go? Okay, well, if you get the opportunity to bang a phantom, you have to do it for the ghost story. So Massimo has vanished. He somehow either sprinted away silently or straight up yeeted himself into the bushes. Yeet. This is a reoccurring thing, Massimo disappearing and reappearing. And occasionally, it's impossible for Massimo to have gotten to where he is unless he's a teleporter because there's a wall in the way or Laura or the camera would have caught him getting into place. Like, it goes from this quirk to help characterize him as a mysterious man to an actual continuity error. He is a human, non-magical character who is blinking through walls like number 5. I always wondered what Laura said to her friends when she got back to the party, like, yeah, so I encountered a ghost in the garden. I turned around and he offered me a bedazzled choker off Etsy that said yes daddy on it. Okay, so the next day, Laura's been ghosted by her corporeal boyfriend, so she's hanging out by the pool watching her friend create continuity errors. So the boyfriend shows up and Laura is so mad that she decides to start making her own leg continuity errors in rebellion. And the boyfriend's like, yeah, you know that vague thing you always wanted to do? Well, I did it without you, ha ha ha. It was so fun, babe. Laura shoves her boyfriend into the pool and runs off. The disposable boyfriend is, retrospectively, a lost opportunity to add agency and characterization to Laura. If he was a nice boyfriend and there was nothing really wrong with him, and yet Laura was unsatisfied with him, that could reveal an inner emptiness and a desire for danger and darkness. You know, she needs a gangster to love her better than all the others do. Cue edgy Littlest Pet Shop music video of the Joker and Harley Quinn, but they're plastic pepperoonies. When you mix serious stuff we learn later about him, like that he's a cheater, with this unserious stuff like, he admitted that he wasn't being thoughtful, her favorite drink was brought out by sheer coincidence. It kind of muddies the water for me. Accompanied by a new song that fits okay because it's got this creepy quality to it, but lyrically is unrelated, Laura mopes around in her swim robe aimlessly for hours. Shots of her crying at dusk are spliced between shots much later in the night of her running around the streets of Sicily, lit to look all cool and green like a Skyrim dungeon. But instead of being bothered by skeletons with axes, you're being bothered by Sicilians with shouting. Then she gets spotted by a car, and a man shows up behind her.
Buonasera.
What was that transition? What, did we cut to commercial?
Buonasera.
I'm Batman.
Yeah, I guess the movie's a little less romantic if they show her getting black-bagged and sedated. We return to her waking up in a room with daylight pouring in and morning birds chirping outside. There's an abrupt cut to her banging on a locked door. Then we cut to night, establishing shot of the castle. Someone has unlocked the door so she can leave the room and explore. Okay, inhale. Where did the day go? During my first viewing, I was like, gee, I sure hope you don't need to use the bathroom. Later, I realized that that room has a shower, so we can at least confirm that there is a drain. I don't know if there's a hidden toilet, but why not show her exploring the room or have her wake up at night? It's summertime, so that means for absolutely no reason that can be gleaned, after they sedated her, they left her locked in a bedroom with no food for over 12 hours. Laura runs around the castle for a bit until she discovers a giant picture of herself. Check that one off the 50 Shades bingo card.
Are you lost, baby girl?
Yeah, dude, we're going with that one. Okay. In front of a massive fireplace with a tiny little baby fire, Massimo explains to Laura why she's been brought here, so it's time to talk about the acting.
What I'm about to tell you is so incredible that I wouldn't have believed it's true until I saw you at the airport.
I think their acting is fine in the sense that the way they emote and their overall body language is good. It's fine. Gold star, but their line delivery isn't. It always comes off like they don't know exactly what they're saying, and whenever the script calls for them to speak in their first language, they do seem more comfortable and less robotic, but at the same time, how would I know? I don't speak their languages. Our lead actress has only been credited in one episode of a Polish medical drama. Before this, she did theater. Our lead dude is a musician who previously had trouble making it as an actor. Quote, he had given up on his TV acting career after being told repeatedly that he was too attractive for the roles on offer. Double quotes, in Italy, if you're a good-looking guy, you're not an actor, he said matter-of-factly. You're just someone good-looking. He got a call from his agent that a team of Polish filmmakers wanted to offer him a role of a mafia boss in the erotic thriller 365 Days, a part that required someone Italian and very good looking. Quote, I woke up, called my gardening boss, and said, I'm not coming in today, my stomach doesn't feel good. The 29-year-old father of two recalled that he boarded a plane to Poland and his life hasn't been the same since. So the leads are a couple of pretty randos who have been plucked out of obscurity and are now here making bank. And you know what? Good for them. On the list of things that aren't working in this movie, they are definitely low priority. And you know what? Despite my salt, the movie did great, and some people find the acting mind-blowing, like this secret lady who's hiding, who thinks they're not really acting.
You and Anna, did you guys, that kind of sexual part, was it real?
It looks real.
It does, honestly.
But I can't see you. Can you put your face in the camera? Because I can't see you.
Yeah, because the place is dark, so you and Anna, that chemistry, was it real? Like, I was like, oh my goodness, this seems like real.
It seems like real because we're good actors, maybe.
Oh my goodness.
We know how to fake.
So you know when I said, oh yeah, Massimo got off the plane and Laura was on the sidewalk? Yeah, you remember that, right? Like, it went by real fast. Real fast. Okay, so it turns out that was actually massively important, like the most important moment in the movie, and instead of us seeing it in real time and seeing Massimo's reaction, now we're gonna go back to it 10 minutes later as a flashback. Does that sound good? Are we having fun? While Massimo was lying on the roof bleeding, he had this vision of Laura, and for the past 5 years, he's been looking for her, as he believes they're soulmates. So, he kidnapped her, or in his words, are giving her a chance to fall in love with him. She has 365 days to fall in love with him, and if she doesn't at the end of the year, she is supposedly free to go. Laura yells at him, tells him that he can't keep her here, that she's not an object, and that she has a boyfriend. Massimo reveals that her boyfriend is conveniently a cheater on top of being an uncool wearer of fanny packs. Massimo has planted a fake note from Laura to her boyfriend to tell him that she's disappearing from his life. Laura tries to run, Massimo grabs her, he throws her onto a chair. And then we get this line, truly a gift from the bad movie gods. Massimo, with his hand upon a boobie, saying,
I won't do anything without your permission.
I won't do anything without your permission, he says while sexually assaulting her. Okay, this calls for a comedic counter.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Let's back up and count so far, okay? Stalking her.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Stalking her boyfriend, presumably hiring a PI to catch him cheating.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Abducting her.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Sedating her, which also led to almost killing her because he didn't know about her heart condition.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Imprisoning her.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Suggestively touching a prisoner who can't say no to you.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Assault.
I won't do anything without your permission.
And now we have sexual assault.
I won't do anything without your permission. But don't provoke me. I can't be gentle. I'm not used to tolerating disobedience.
Oh, that's a threat.
I won't do anything without your permission.
Do I need to point out the entire premise of this story? Its very namesake is bogus. The author cites 50 Shades and Beauty and the Beast as inspirations, and the Beauty and the Beast has a ticking clock over its love story. There's an enchanted floaty rose, and if the beast can't love someone and be loved in return before the last petal falls, he's doomed. So, we need a ticking clock. What's our ticking clock? Oh, Massimo just kinda arbitrarily decides to put a time limit on his cruelty. This movie could literally be renamed, just give it a year. This is 1, super lazy and unimaginative, but 2, he says that he'll let her go after a year if she doesn't love him, right? That's a promise that he made. But he also promises not to do anything without her permission, which he will frequently break throughout the movie. You can't take his word on anything. The movie frames this as this erotic struggle with his urges, but what struggle? He always just caves and does what he wants. His seduction plan is basically pre-Stockholm Syndrome happens, and we don't even make it to the end of the scene without him assaulting her again with sexual undertones. Anything actually just means penetration and nothing else. That's the only line he won't cross. Laura gets his gun that honestly I keep forgetting that he has even with rewatches, and when she hesitates to fire, he overpowers her. You see, on top of everything else he did, he also brought a loaded gun into this meeting. I understand why a mafia man would have a gun close to him at all times, but when you're meeting your kidnapping victim, who you want to fall in love with you because you think they're your soulmate, why would you be visibly armed? Also, it's weird to me that the movie felt no need to establish when Laura noticed the gun, but okay. Marco and Domenico come in. Domenico is now confirmed as a blood relative because he too can teleport. Then Massimo must leave to go to the crime catacombs, the shady business bat cave. Deep in the caves, Massimo approaches a man chained to a disc donut. His name is Alfredo. He's been selling children to a brothel and has tainted the family name. You see, this is where the first scene comes back into play. It actually wasn't random. This is where we get introduced to this new fraction of people in the Massimo family who, as a reaction to the power vacuum left by Massimo's father, have gotten back into child trafficking. In fact, they might have been pulling the strings the whole time. Just kidding, Alfredo's gonna be gone in 2 minutes and this whole thread will be dropped. Aw, you watched a movie thinking you were gonna see a story, how foolish. So, the trafficking stuff, what's that about? The movie doesn't seem to be trying to get across that criminals have their own codes of conduct. Instead, this scene comes off like the movie is uncomfortable with the depravity of its own premise. So this scene is just kind of like a flaccid appeal to this idea that Massimo's not such a bad guy, that he has some standards, he's not a monster, Laura just can't see it yet. But it feels cheap and stupid to me because, first of all, I don't need it explained to me that he's not as bad as he mathematically could be. I'm sure he's also not a cannibal. I don't need him going down to the crime catacombs to confront a cannibal about to chow down on some corpse chowder. If you just explain the details of what his mob does, we would know, and I wouldn't think to ask. Which is why the first scene is so dumb. You don't sell your shrimp haul to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Most people are aware that people who abused children need protection when they go to prison, or some of the other prisoners will kill them. And these guys are like rocking up to the high-ranking Don and are like, "Hi, we're selling Girl Scouts, do you want some?" Second of all, there are no consequences to Massimo standing up against the traffickers. It's irrelevant and could be replaced by anything nice. It's never revealed, for example, that Massimo's father was killed by some associates of the two men at the beginning, and thus Massimo swears revenge against the traffickers. The story feels no impulse to reflect on the fact that Massimo has kidnapped Laura to exploit her and engages in many of the behaviors listed on this power and control wheel on strategies of traffickers. And going forward, Laura's an adult, sure, but under these circumstances, her consent means about as much as a minor's consent to Massimo, which is to say it means nothing, it's all So we get this really nice shot of Laura thinking in the shower. She makes up her mind to escape and we see her get up and she's already made it outside. Laura lightly jogs around the property as suspense music plays, and before any suspense is even allowed to build, Laura runs into a bunch of Massimo's goons. They've decided to move the out of the secret crypt to kill him. The handheld camera zooms and so does the warp stabilization. The weird artifacting scares Laura and causes her heart to tap out. From here on out, the entire plot point about Laura's heart is forgotten. No, I'm not joking. This is seriously it. That was the planting, the reminder, and the payoff. It was all for the sake of making Laura faint on her first night to transition to the next morning. No matter how much stress she's under, or how awful things get in the future, her heart will just be vibin'. This is what happens when your story isn't a standalone story and it's forced into the format of a trilogy. People write their novels to be trilogies, and I don't know if that's optimistic or cynical. Laura wakes up and Massimo's like, "You have to understand, he was a bad person, he hurt children, I only hurt grown-ups, so I'm better, please let me put my thingy inside you. I was really nice, and the maid changed your clothes, not me."
You have people for everything.
Except watching the door, apparently.
So tell one of your butlers to bring my cell phone and laptop.
You will have your cell phone and your laptop when it's the right time.
When you won't tattle. Then Massimo tells her that Domenico's around if she needs anything, and he drops on her out of nowhere that they're leaving the castle in 2 hours to buy some stuff before they get on a plane. Laura understandably starts panicking.
I'm not flying anywhere unless it's Poland.
It wasn't an offer. It was an order.
Listen to me. I'm not a bag of potatoes that you can transfer without my permission. If that's your idea how falling in love with you looks like, you
When Laura slaps Massimo, he freezes like it's this big, serious moment, even though he's violent all the time to her. And she looks like she's trembling in fear of the retaliation.
If you hit me again.
What? You don't do violence, only I do violence. I do violence, you don't do violence, only I do violence. So Massimo, having no self-awareness, mocks her for having a temper, and then having also apparently never seen the inside of his own house, mocks her for having too many shoes. You're gonna do all this insanity and neg. What more does he want? What more can you take from us? Oh man, we almost forgot how bad the movie was at transitions. The music stops, Domenico pulls out her chair, teleports, then explains that he'll do his best to help her. Laura invites Domenico to eat with her in this strange tone that seems almost flirtatious, and he agrees to eat.
I think he just wants to take good care of you, you know?
But I think you're here to help me with everything what I need. So I need you to sit down and help me to eat.
Okay. Love me now. Touch me.
So Laura's lounging after her meal. Ew, where'd you come from? I'm not going anywhere. Back to music. So they're traveling, and Massimo recites a Wikipedia article. Laura seems smugly turned on. Laura, no. Then the movie pushes something on you so fast, it'll break your neck. So, even though it's been one day, not even a full 24 hours since she was let out of that room she was locked in, and they have built zero trust, and she has zero reason to stick around, Massimo has brought her out in public to go clothes shopping. I'm serious, this transitions into a musical shopping spree montage. Laura interacts with shop clerks and tries on clothes as Massimo plays on his phone and his goons sit around bored and comedically cannot hold all of the things Laura is buying. We're now 35 minutes into this movie. 10 minutes ago we were doing this. Now, 10 minutes ago. Now, 10 minutes ago. I want it noted that, to my understanding, which is pretty much just Dan Olsen videos, Bella Swan and Anastasia Steele are virginal, meek, awkward, and shy away from extravagant gifts with guilt. Laura, in contrast, is materialistic and confident, at least before Massimo turns her brain into soup, which I find an interesting choice. In some ways, she's the most original choice being made. You might not like Laura, in fact, you probably don't, but at least a decision was made. And the movie's definitely going to use her uniqueness and not just make her reactively do the same things and have the same conversations over and over. Oh boy. The baffling montage comes to a halt when Laura is in the changing room and Massimo comes barging in and stays after being told to leave. Laura says she'll guarantee he'll never see these boobies if he doesn't leave, so he grabs her by the neck. Laura has the realization that now is probably a really good time to try to run away. They strangely don't run after her. I love this shot of her looking at all of the places that she could run that just cuts into her immediately running into an obvious dead end. There's some police officers, but they're afraid of Massimo, so they ignore her, I think.
Are you lost, baby girl?
I am going to vomit. He just teleports behind you and is like,
I'm the daddy here.
How's it going?
Massimo does this super attractive thing where he starts lecturing her about how she's just being really disagreeable right now. Just like super negative. It's almost like she doesn't want this relationship to work. This relationship between her and her kidnapper. I have never hated a fictional character the way I hate Massimo, and I think it's because I get the sense the movie agrees with him. Massimo's goal is he wants them to The movie's goal is they want them to So it just creates this hatred in me. I'm just like, holy He's as self-aware as a brick! There appears to be this continuity error where they talk as if Massimo has not already broken his promise not to touch her, because even if she agrees with him that the only thing that matters is penetrative, every other scene, he's threatening to her. Like, put these two things on a scale and weigh them next to each other. Massimo somehow still manages to soothe Laura's concerns. So she demands her laptop be returned, orders a specific type of dinner, and then saunters away confidently. Wow. Got him. Okay, so I actually have a weird note. What if Massimo was here to do something else, and Laura, who can be characterized as extremely materialistic, demanded to go shopping as a way to mess with him and acquire rad loot rather than just springing this on us like it makes sense? It would make these shots of her confidently strutting around kind of funny and would help clarify what I think they're trying to get at. That Laura has an odd way of coming out on top in taking control of situations where logically she should have no power. Music transition. Do do do. Laura gets ready for dinner looking very pleased. Upon Massimo's order, the chef serves their food and then just awkwardly stands there between them. Laura proves not only is she prettier than Massimo, but she has sicker burns.
My grandma makes them better. But you don't have to kill him.
Massimo gets a text from his ex and just, wow, look at that screen. That is awful. Laura asks Massimo to explain what he does at Mob Wives and if he has enough mischief and handiness skill to become a level 10 boss. Massimo dodges all of his soulmate's questions. And the piano music romantically swells as he tells her that he's only doing this because his daddy died and he wants her to teach him how to be gentle and less of a rapist. Aww. Laura gets back to her room to find her laptop and phone have been returned, and apparently that was all she needed to not seek help. She calls her mom and tells her that she's been given a 1-year contract in Sicily. It's easy to miss this because this movie loves montages, but Massimo likes to watch her sleep. Wait, since when do they sleep in the same bed? Oh, whatever. She wakes up, strips down, and gets into the ostentatiously pretty shower, and Massimo's like, cool, and then strips down and takes a shower, and she's like, cool. Then Massimo posts cringe with his mouth.
Why are you looking at it? Do you want to touch it?
That's me talking to you about the subscribe button. Laura's, unfortunately, kind of warming up to him, teasing him a little, and then he goes straight for the neck every time. Baby girl, blah, 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 I'm a monster.
Oh my god, Quinn, is that what you think Italians sound like?
Okay, so you know how it kind of feels like the movie's making progress? Well, you know, what this movie considers progress, because she's warming up to him, she's teasing him, she's messing with him. The movie decides it's time to completely undermine that and comedically remind you that this is all a farce, that she's been kidnapped, she has absolutely no control over her fate whatsoever, and it does this with a scene of her being comedically carried onto a plane, kicking and screaming like a child as Massimo and Mario are like, ugh, difficult women, am I right? You might as well do a comedic cut and add a laugh track after she says or what, like barely 20 seconds has passed. Here, I'll do it for you.
Don't provoke me.
I won't.
Bel caratterino.
Non mi annoierò.
Buona fortuna, Massimo.
While the story is rooted in elements of Stockholm Syndrome and date, the cinematographer said 365 Days is meant to be an empowering adult fairy tale for women. The female hero is far stronger and more emancipated than girls from old fairy tales, he said. Ha ha, oh, okay, buddy. I can see an argument for why the fans of 365 Days feel empowered. Like, yeah, I got my movie, I'm chillin'. I may be literally vibing, and no one's yelling at me or saying that doing this is gonna put demons in my uterus or no one will marry me, for now I am an unpure subhuman husk. Wow, wow, wow. Welcome to the future. Amazing. But this quote says the female hero. What? No. No. Why is she empowered? Or more empowered than the fairy tale? Because she wow. Is it seriously because she wow. Is it seriously like, oh yeah, she's got power over him. She's taming his beast by holding how much he wants her over him. Sometimes I feel like the people that worked on this movie don't understand that because of the context of why she's here, all of this is in a box of what's acceptable and pleasing to Massimo, the kidnapper slash stalker. This idea that she has power, she doesn't. It's a shallow facade. Everything that happens, including her being like, ooh, maybe I won't do you, that's all within the realm of his game. This isn't her taking control. She hasn't left the box. We are still in the box. If ever she actually wanders too close to the wall of the box for what he wants for her, guess what? Might makes right. I'm bigger than you, bam, down you go. This is present in every single scene of them so far. I will have one of my goons pick you up and drag you kicking and screaming onto a plane because, well, I got places to be. Now's not the time for play. Don't you understand that? Why don't you accept that? You're being very unreasonable right now. And guess what? That's part of the fantasy too. That's the box talking to you. All of this stuff could be ripped out of various books about the psychology of domestic abusers, and it's just like, wow, chef's kiss. So they get on the plane, they strap Laura down in some type of straitjackety-esque way. Then Massimo massages the boob and pinches the nip while Laura's tied down. He puts his hands down her pants and tells her that she needs to earn the pleasure, then leaves her to go touch Domenico's face with that same hand. Hello. Then the plane lands and this confusing shot happens. I'm not sure what emotionally it's supposed to mean.
Laura.
I don't know. I seriously don't know. Okay, so we get a musical travel montage. Laura gets suggestive with her ice cream, then runs off to jump into a fountain off screen. Massimo runs after her. Instead of showing that which could potentially be a humanizing light moment of hijinks, we save some money on the budget of this monstrosity and cut to them kind of wet, making their way back to their room. Laura, getting real bold, real smug, decides to visit Massimo in his room. We have now entered the halfway point of the movie. The purple lights are poppin'. So Laura wants to bang, despite Massimo owning a giant painting of himself. But then, you know, Massimo does what Massimo does best. He makes it bad. Laura's emotions re-roll and she decides actually she wants to leave. She is shoved onto the bed, forced in chains. Then out comes the spreader bar. Where is my 50 Shades bingo card? Ah, there it is. That's a big old checkaroony. So Massimo invites in a sex worker to give him a blowy in front of her to tease her. They both get off on it. Massimo teases her, then threatens to bang her to death or something. I don't know. He just reaffirms that he's a monster, basically. This scene could be described as like the Saw movies, but instead of Jigsaw, it's Massimo, and instead of a trap, it's Massimo's dong, and instead of a key, it's Massimo's dong, but in a good way. The metaphor is struggling. Massimo tells her to get dressed. They need to go to one of his clubs in 2 hours. Why is it always 2 hours? Mix it up. Cue ill-fitting music that'll go away in 3 seconds. Wow. Laura comes down in a dress that's honestly only slightly more revealing than her other outfits. Domenico starts panicking, of course, even though when she gets to the club, she's going to blend in perfectly, but it's supposed to be a big deal. Domenico also warns her that this is probably maybe a mob meeting by telling her to keep her head down, but gives her no specific advice about what or what not to do. Also, they're doing that thing that drives people nuts in movies where they're whispering in a club with blaring music. She predictably interrupts the meeting. Massimo goes all high school teacher about to measure your skirt length on her, even though, once again, he also didn't tell her why they were going to the club or what was expected of her, or what the dress code is. And considering she put her hair in a high ponytail, like the one the sex worker wore, she clearly picked this outfit to send him a message about what happened 2 hours ago. But you know, Massimo's gotta make it bad. Once again, in a sequence that's so repetitive, Laura teases him, he gets all bloodthirsty rape monster, so she gets mad, and then her emotions re-roll and she storms off. You may have noticed our protagonists are highly unmotivated. Massimo has absolutely no reason to drag Laura to this, and even less reason to not explain what's going on. If you won't be upfront with her about your job, why involve her by inviting her? In terms of romantic tropes, it's almost like the worst of both worlds. He's neither protector nor equal partner in crime. Massimo is constantly just a toothache. You can make him teleport as much as you want, that doesn't make him mysterious, and it doesn't give him emotional depth. Any flaws that are unrelated to sexualizing violence aren't even treated as flaws. For example, he clearly might not be emotionally intelligent, or at the very least, he struggles to anticipate how people will react to his actions. This isn't inherently wrong for a romantic lead. There are tons of characters that I like that have this trait. Some of them are love interests. It's really weird when you're unwilling to ask yourself questions about the character you wrote. They're unwilling to look past the surface level characterization to come to terms with the fact that he's bizarre. He's a weirdo.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
What kind of person has a vision during a near-death experience and becomes obsessed with a woman that he doesn't know exists? And then once he finds out the woman exists, he kidnaps her to get her to fall in love with him. Well, the most flattering thing you could say about that person is that they're extremely eccentric. They're also likely superstitious or extremely spiritual. Why is he so boring? He has no right to be this boring. Well, part of it is that he's always repeating himself.
Don't provoke me. You'll be mine. I guarantee it. Then I'll do anything I want.
Meanwhile, Laura's train of thought is jumbled and unfollowable. Why she's hot one minute and cold another doesn't really make sense. You may naively, upon your first viewing, think Laura is attracted to Massimo but grows disgusted when he becomes possessive. But no, it's not consistent. It's just this annoying way of padding out the film and desperately trying to build tension. Sometimes it seems like Laura's inability to stay afraid is because she knows she's not in any real danger because she's seen the script. So she has to endure his constant temper tantrums because of the whims of the target demo in another universe she can't perceive. Laura runs off and starts touching some guy. Massimo tries to find her, but he can't, and eventually he spots her with a different guy dancing by a pole. And this guy gets grabby, and Laura tries to pull away, and then Massimo just can't stand the sight of a man that's not him grabbing Laura without her consent. So like the true champion and ally to women's rights that he is, he pulls out two guns like he's a spy in a 1980s movie and terrifies the whole building. The generic wave file gasps. Everyone freezes, but no one is shot. The next day on a big boat, Laura is sad listening to Massimo and Marco argue. Massimo is being lectured for shooting that guy, who it turns out is the son of another mafia family. Here's the thing though. We don't hear or see the gunfire. So apparently off screen, Massimo took that man somewhere else and shot him in the hands. This is, spoilers, a very serious situation that will incite a war between the two families and have consequences later in the film, and for some reason, we decided not to show it. This movie has no sense of what's important and what isn't. Conversations with a pedophile who will never be shown again? Ooh, that's important. Massimo's starting a gang war that will result in major consequences? We can skip it, it's okay. That's not weird, right? Yeah, it's not weird. When it's stuff about Massimo and Laura, I can excuse it because even if it doesn't further the plot, it's technically the main attraction of the movie. Or it would be if the movie was well written and its characters' dialogue was fun and not repetitive as hell. It's just this reminder that as beautiful as this film looks and as much money was put into it, the writing is what dooms it. Honestly, skipping this is so out of place that it makes me think that there was some type of production problem where the footage was ruined or for some reason unusable. Laura apologizes for, being attacked? Just the difficult situation? I'm not sure, but she seems really sorry. And although at first Massimo's temper starts to get the better of him, he, for once, restrains himself and with much difficulty tells her not to apologize, and finally we get some character development.
I shot his ass. I wouldn't have to do it if you didn't just like and put on your little show.
Just kidding. Aw, you believe there would be character development? You got some egg on your face. Then Massimo keeps asking her where she's going, even though the obvious answer is just like to be alone on a different part of the boat. But he's got a micromanager all the time, because who would be making it bad? What, is everything gonna make itself bad? To be fair, I guess you could say he's worried about her jumping or falling into the water.
Stop it! Don't touch me! Stop it! What are you doing?
Oh. It's not even clear how she fell in the water, it sort of looks like he pushed her. Massimo saves her from the ocean. Now if only he could save her from his existence.
I'm so grateful that you're alive, but at the same time I want to kill you.
That's it. That's the whole movie. Donate to my Patreon. Follow me on Twitter. Send flowers to my funeral. I like roses and peonies.
Thanks God that was so close.
I can't tell if this is the character canonically gaslighting her or if it's a continuity error. Like if in an earlier draft, Laura falls from slipping and not because she lost her balance trying to fight off Massimo.
Why are you so disobedient?
I'm sorry.
I cannot overcome the sickness. This is terminal. Laura apologizes to him and tells him that she won't do it anymore. The it in that sentence is doing some heavy lifting. I think she means she won't disobey him. Massimo tells her that he can't lose her, and he tells her to rest, and she stops him and is like, "You saved me, here, have a sex." No, don't do it. Okay, so they do oral, they frick, the music blares. I'm not sure how much of this I'll be able to show you, but at one point Massimo clearly looks into the camera. Then we get a montage of them banging on different parts of the boat. The front of the boat, the back of the boat, you know, just all over the boat. I like to think that old man Mario is still here and is just like pretending he can't hear them. Or maybe he's contemplating swimming back to shore. I can't think of anything more awkward. They either locked him in his cabin or he's doing a Metal Gear trying not to be detected. There is no sense of how much time is passing. Refractory period who? Never heard of them. Or perhaps the answer to this is way funnier. What if they keep stopping and moving? Alright, follow me on this journey as I tell you how this went down. Picture the sounds of the sea and seagulls. And then there's Laura and Massimo, nips and dong to the wind. Now imagine them wordlessly following each other like Sims to the new woohoo location. Just the sounds of their bare feet against the boat's floor. And so they get to the next location, but sometimes it's really difficult because they have to climb up onto the boat. And they're just slipping and sliding all over the place, doing all of this naked. And the boat top's kinda uncomfortably hot, but they really want to be able to say that they banged on top of the boat, so they just struggle to get into position. And by this point, Massimo's kinda like, you know... And surely by now, Laura's just... Also, I don't want to point this out, but in this shot, Massimo's scrot is just getting cooked on top of that boat, okay? He's getting soupy up there. It's probably like silly putty. So after the montage of thinking with portals, Massimo surprises Laura with the fact that they're going to a ball, and her reaction is pretty funny.
Are you f***ing crazy? I have nothing to wear.
Alright, so we do a getting ready for the ball montage. I'm retaining my one brain cell. Laura's retaining her one personality trait. I love her one personality trait. I'll defend it with my life. You know, she loves spending money, and as someone who went to such great lengths to keep this video from being demonetized, I can vibe with that. We get to the ball. I can hear 50 Shades lawyers salivating. There's paparazzi for some reason. He's Crimestagram famous.
Do you mind if I ask you to dance with me?
Don Massimo, you're asking. How surprising.
That'd be funny if it weren't so sad. The movie turns into a cologne commercial. Essence of Stockholm. How to describe the smell? It's kind of a floral scent with a hint of citrus and nodes of dread. Okay, so break out your bingo card. After the dance, we are approached by another staple of the genre, sexually threatening blonde woman TM. She introduces herself as Anna, the first and real love of Massimo, and she dead threatens to kill Laura. Massimo explains that he's had Laura's portrait in his home for years, but Anna never expected him to find her. On the day he found out Laura was real, he left Anna. But I call bull. Before Laura even arrived at the airport, Massimo was ignoring her messages. Laura, I'll never let anyone hurt you, except me. I will hurt you. A lot. Very often. They go home, ? And then bang again to a new unrelated song even though nothing's happened, but this time they're on a sync. After they bang, the first dialogue of the scene, Massimo says the words that Laura always loves to hear. Domenico will take you to the airport tomorrow. Your flight is at 8 p.m. Laura starts panicking, thinking Massimo is done with her and doesn't want to see her anymore. Laura, I moved to the next chapter of the book. Negging is over. It's time to do Dread Game. No, I'm kidding. Massimo's like, it'll be cool. You said you wanted to visit your family and I'll join you there soon. And Laura's like trembling and confused. And Massimo's walking out and he's just like,
I love you.
It's not a wrong choice to write a character that has trouble with emotions or reading people. It just feels like it's being thrown at us out of nowhere for the sake of plot convenience. This is incredibly forced misunderstanding, even as far as romantic drama misunderstandings go. So in the car, Domenico's trying to reassure Laura about Anna.
Forget about Anna. She's the past.
Is she?
Yes. And you, my darling, you are the future.
Hey, watch your language. I got enough problems. You know, if she really does kill her, she won't have a future. Don't you just love how Domenico's a more reassuring boyfriend than Massimo? Domenico gets a phone call that things are getting all serious and he gets cryptic on her. Laura arrives back in Poland and visits her friend Olga. You know Olga. The friend from the vacation? Why would you let her dye her hair? I can't. I'm so face blind. IMBD? Help! Okay, I'm like 95% sure this is the same character. But don't take my word for it, because the first time I saw Jurassic World, I thought Chris Pratt was two different people for like the first 30 minutes of that movie. It's just, he was really cool and sensitive when he was with his velociraptor babies, and he just sucked a lot of eggs when he was with the protagonist, okay? I was confused. He was so cocky. I was like, when is the cool guy gonna come back? Oh. So with a bit of poking, Olga gets Laura to talk about the mysterious man she met. Also, they have just way more chemistry together. Like, way more. Am I imagining this? And with a bit more probing, Laura tells Olga basically everything that's happened so far, leaving nothing out, and they get drunk together and cry. And if you're wondering why this audio sounds different, I definitely didn't have to re-record when I mispronounced her name in a different way from how I usually mispronounce it. Finally, Olga decides they need to go out and have fun. God, somehow Olga has way more personality than Massimo in like 3 minutes. It actually makes me mad. We get a musical montage of Olga and Laura drinking champagne while getting back rubs, getting facials, getting their hair done, chilling in a hot tub, biting each other's toes because they are gay. I'm losing my mind in a good way. I remember what being alive feels like. My last brain cell is thriving. She's being rejuvenated by this dumb montage because even though it's just filler, at least it's not toxic. After watching an hour and 26 minutes of and fear and threats, this is soothing. This is awesome. The bar is that low. Oh, and 50 Shades thingy, Laura gets offered a major promotion out of nowhere.
General manager w Estonia.
How did she get offered a promotion? She's been missing for... Wait, how much time has passed? The montage ends and another pop song begins. So Laura gets a nice blonde wig. I mean a nice blonde bob. Whoops. God, the real fantasy is going from jet black hair to platinum blonde in one salon trip, am I right? They hit the club and dance, and then men come back and ruin the movie. I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from. I think I'm having a hard time right now. So, the ex-boyfriend is here, Laura won't accept his apology, and he ends up following her home. All of this takes way too much time when you consider how irrelevant he was to the story. In traditional creepy guy fashion, Massimo is waiting in the dark for her. And you know, he starts playing the hits.
You look stunning, baby girl.
Laura starts hitting Massimo, yelling at him to leave. Massimo says nothing and they just start having sex. The music and sex pauses when Laura discovers a wound. Massimo tells her, oh yeah, I solved the plot off screen. Amazing. Amazing. Great. This is when our protagonist declares,
I don't need 365 days.
Because
I love you.
Okay, film students, self-described cinemaphiles, you might want to place your wallet in your mouth for this next transition. You might even need to pause and retrieve a buddy or an emotional support animal.
say it again.
I love you.
One more time to just let it soak in. One So because this is a fanfiction's sloppy seconds, Massimo proposes. I can barely contain the urge to make more Sims references. And yes, that means that the worst transition of the movie is between not one, but 2 emotional climaxes. That's 4 climaxes total. But like in a strange, symbolic way, retrospectively, this is one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie. Think about it. Traditionally, if you want someone to marry you, you ask, and they agree to marry you, they consent, you might say, and then if you have a ring, you put it on their finger. Laura has woken up with the engagement ring already on her finger, because Massimo slipped it on while she was sleeping. In a normal loving relationship, this would just be a cute prank. It would mean nothing bad. It wouldn't be that deep. But for them, this subtext is intriguing because this is just another instance of retroactive consent. It's amazing how it permeates every detail of the story, no matter how small. It's kind of like how Disney World hides Mickey Mouse ears everywhere, except in 365 days, you're hiding creepy subtext between creepy text. Hey, guess what? Hey, guess what? Hey, guess what? It's time to go shopping again. Hey, you know what? If they're doing a montage, they don't have to talk to each other. This is a blessing in disguise. This is a bonding scene set to upbeat music where Massimo doesn't smile once. It's also plot irrelevant, and the whole thing could be scrapped. Oh god, he's miming being upset about how revealing the outfits are between being bored. He's obsessed with her. Why is he belly aching about shopping? Is this just like what the movie thinks men are like? It definitely says something that this movie can imagine a man doing all this depravity but taking a genuine interest in you shopping? Oh, that's dreaming too far. You're getting too close to the sun. Out of nowhere, Massimo and Laura attend a wedding. This is when he meets the in-laws.
My mom is asking, what do you do for a living?
I'm a crime farmer. I farm crime in my crime fields. And then the scene is over. If that wedding seems super unnecessary, even by this movie's standards, you should know that the bride is the author of the books. This is her cameo. Then we get a new song. Laura and Massimo are back on his boat. They make out. I'd like to point out the last 4 minutes since the proposal, Laura and Massimo have barely talked to each other and have not really learned anything about each other. Massimo is introduced to Laura's parents, but they're gone throughout the rest of the movie, and they're kind of like stock parent characters. In fact, in this romance movie, it's been about 30 minutes, the ballroom scene, since Laura and Massimo have had an actual conversation. Yeah. Laura comes down to a poolside breakfast with Massimo and Mario and says that she doesn't feel well, and that's movie talk for she's pregnant. Even though she describes feeling unwell in the vaguest terms possible, Massimo's already like, Domenico will take you to the doctors in 2 hours. What a f***ing nerd. Through conversation, it's revealed that Laura has accepted that her own parents can't come to her wedding, because somehow that would automatically mean exposing them to Massimo's crime brewery. And yet, Massimo has somehow accepted that she spilled the beans about him being a criminal to her rando friend. He just doesn't care. He's just cool with it. You know, here's a crazy thought. What if you had a scene where she tells Massimo that she told her friend, and instead of doing the obvious thing, Massimo, having changed, has a gentle, kind reaction? Because right now, it just kind of looks like a writing mistake. Massimo leaves. This cut gives me anxiety. We have less than 10 minutes of this movie, but for some reason, we'll be around with Laura being like, I know you don't like me, Marco. And Marco being like, oh, well, you've caused a lot of commotion in our family. Marco, she was kidnapped. It's the premise of the movie. So best girl Olga comes back. No, the wrong guy's getting hit in the nuts. Laura explains to Olga that she's pregnant and that they're getting married. Olga yells, "You've only known each other for 2 months!" This movie's title is actually broken in 2 ways. The first is that Massimo's word means nothing, but the second is it's a ticking clock title in a series where time apparently means nothing. Where did 2 months come from? Very little time is accounted for in this movie. Don't worry, I'll fix it. Day 1, Laura is locked in her room until the evening, passes out in the courtyard, wakes up in the morning. Day 2, lunch, shopping, dinner. Laura gets her phone back and decides to stay. Day 3, this is the first tricky one. Laura wakes up, showers with Massimo, plane ride, she gets off the plane at sunset, there's a travel montage, the sun is setting during the ice cream scene as the streetlights are just starting to come on. Laura gets in the fountain, and they have to go back to their rooms. After her shower, she goes to Massimo's room. Cue, be ready in 2 hours. Cue, nightclub scene. This is the longest day in the movie. Day ? Likely for. Okay, so we don't know if the boat scene is the next day, but it seems like it because of the urgency and the anger coming from Marco and Massimo. And Laura is sulking as if it happened last night. So then we have the fight, the fall, and boat sex. After boat sex, the sky hasn't changed, so it seems like it happened over the course of a few hours. Massimo says they slept 1 hour. Massimo's evening surprise is the ball, which Laura panics because she has to get ready fast for it. The sink scene seems to happen the same night because Massimo's still wearing the same suit. Day 5. Laura's flight is the next morning at 8. Laura arrives back in Poland wearing the same outfit she was wearing when she left, and she visits Olga's apartment wearing that same outfit. They leave the apartment to have their spa day at the end of their conversation, and at night, they go out to hit the club. Laura meets her ex at the club. Her ex follows her home, where she finds Massimo waiting for her. Then they have sex. Day 6, Massimo proposes. Then we have a montage of shopping, wedding, and boat. There are 3 places where time can be injected, between the nightclub scene and the boat scene, between Laura and Olga having their makeover day and actually hitting the club, and in that montage of nonsense that adds nothing. I believe, after many hours of meditation, that the montage of nonsense was actually supposed to give us a sense of what Laura and Massimo's day-to-day life is like together. But it doesn't. It's just sort of a montage of shopping that suddenly stops, and then you get an out-of-place scene, and then another montage of kissing on a boat. That 4 minutes wasn't worthless. It was actually really important. It was supposed to be a montage of about 54 days. The vast majority of their time together. 4 minutes isn't a lot of time, but if Up can communicate an entire marriage in about 4.5 minutes, you can communicate 2 months of just chilling out and being in love. You know, I'd like to tell you I believe in you, but you've already failed me. Olga tells Laura that she's trapped in a golden cage, but she's still a prisoner. She holds her and tells her that she loves her, and that they can raise the child together. Gal pals. Yay. While waiting for Laura to try on wedding dresses, Domenico and Olga casually prove they have more personality than the main characters. Laura finds a really cool dress and tells Olga that she wants to keep the child and be with Massimo, and Olga accepts. Then, less than 3 minutes until the credits, Marco gets a call from a random man that they're about to kill Laura. And he's like, "Are you sure?" And the man's like, "Yes." And then Marco tells another unseen character also named Marco to drive faster. Then we get this riveting exchange, just this right in the feels dialogue. We are unbelievably invested in the happiness of our 2 main characters, and watching their love makes our hearts collectively ache.
Hi, honey.
How long does it take to try on a dress?
As long as it takes.
Marco tries to call Massimo, but the line is busy, except that's not how modern cell phones work. Marco keeps trying to call Massimo, but the line is still busy. Then, without even trying to call Domenico to warn him, we watch Marco run across the lawn to Massimo. As the car, Domenico, Olga, and Laura drive into the tunnel, the cell phone connection is lost, the elderly man continues to run, but the car never emerges from the other side of the tunnel. And Marco just gives Massimo this meaningful look, and he takes off his sunglasses. And Massimo just knows what this means. And he has a flashback, tellingly not of Laura, but of the original version of Laura from 5 years ago, the idea of Laura, and he falls to his knees and cries. Then the final shot of the movie, a singular cop car parked in front of the tunnel. Except it's not a car, it's a PNG of a car, motion tracked and animated with 3 flashing lights and After Effects. You can tell because of the comedically dark shadow the car casts. And that's 365 days. Yays. Chapter 5. What the actual hell did I just watch? Isn't it amazing that they can't invent a more creative reason for her to get kidnapped? And they clearly don't want to deal with her being a kidnapping victim for more than 20 minutes, nor do they want to turn this into a dark comedy. I thought she was going to be captured by him because of something that had to do with crime. Or maybe they were both doing shady stuff. I mean, Laura is very easily distracted by shiny things. Maybe she'd break the rules to get rich faster. Maybe that affected Massimo's business. You ever think about that? And if Massimo had a criminal executive kidnapped who just so happened to be a pretty lady with a Fibonacci sequence nose, the standard language of domestic violence doesn't apply because they're just each other's antagonists in the opposite sides of a conflict. The conflict isn't just, why don't you love me, why won't you sleep with me? Because when that's the only conflict, it's like Laura's consent is the antagonist of the movie. The kidnapping is so unnecessary to the rest of the story, it could be replaced by anything that causes them to start off with negative tension. You know, I've seen intelligent people debate the morality of Beauty and the Beast as a love story and go back and forth and not agree. But I think we can all agree on this. Beauty and the Beast has a lot of stuff going for it. You know, it's got nice animation, it's got great music, it's got charming side characters. The Beast's characterization and arc are consistent and coherent, but here, in 365 days, that's all gone. And I want you to think about this sequence of events. Alright, so the mob kills Laura because Massimo shot that guy in the club who was a gangster, because Laura was dancing with him, well, actually because the guy's grabbed who won't take no for an answer. But Laura was dancing with him because Massimo said he could do whatever he wants to her, because she wore a short dress, because she wanted to tease him, because she was mad Massimo hired a sex worker to give him a blowy while she was chained to the bed, and Massimo hired the sex worker because Laura refused to suck his D, because Massimo is an who kidnapped her, because Massimo had a vision of her during his near-death experience. The blowjob scene. The action Laura takes by refusing to give Massimo a blowy because she doesn't like him very much because he kidnapped her, that happens in the middle of the movie. Now obviously, Laura isn't really dead, but hypothetically, if this was a standalone movie, that action starts a chain reaction that signs Laura's life away in the final minutes of the movie. Technically, she is punished multiple times for refusing to give that blowy, both within the scene, at the club, on the boat, and eventually with her life and the lives of her best friend Olga, the baby she was looking forward to having, and Domenico, who is kind of the most polite and gentle of Massimo's goons. The vast majority of good characters are flawed, and oftentimes they struggle in a narrative because of their fatal flaw. They are challenged by the events of the story. In a happy movie, like a love story, the fatal flaw is probably corrected as the character grows, or maybe they cannot overcome their fatal flaw and they are consumed by it. In 365 Days, Massimo doesn't really change. He doesn't have an arc. He is not transformed by love into a more stable, kind man. His flaws are not corrected, mended, worked on, or even analyzed with any scrutiny. He goes from an aggressive, violent man to a mostly nice, emotionally constipated fiancé. But why? Because he was tested and he found inner strength and self-awareness? Because he learned to be gentle? No, it happened because Laura finally had sex with him and stopped saying no to him. He didn't have to do anything to get everything he wanted. And why? Well, because Laura corrected her fatal flaw. Whether the movie intended it to be the case or not, it's extremely difficult not to do a reading of this movie where Laura's fatal flaw isn't being materialistic, but it's being independent and unsubmissive. Do you remember when Laura was introduced? She was kind of a bad and the movie drew attention to her gender. It told us she's a hard-nosed, domineering woman in a dude-dominated industry, and that she has to fight to be respected.
You should ask Miss Biel. Excuse my language, but you need to have balls to this job.
It was possible because of my strategy. Agent sex had nothing to do with it.
So how is her gender approached throughout the rest of the movie? Well, she's berated and treated like a difficult, irrational woman for rejecting her kidnapper. And despite how ridiculous and irrational Massimo is, he's never served a slice of humble pie, and it is Laura who is the one who is likened to a child and infantilized. Part of this is the kink aspect of the movie, but you know, if you talk to people who have a low opinion of women, they tend to liken women to a half state between adulthood and childhood, not full adults or citizens, for they see them as irrational and emotional. Or well, fundamentally, automatically more irrational than men, as if rationality itself were a personality trait. This is one of the reasons the movie's framing of Laura's emotions versus Massimo's emotions disturbs me. It taps into some pretty ancient memes. Massimo is ridiculous. He's incredibly delusional, emotional, and irrational, but the movie mostly rewards him for it. Meanwhile, Laura is berated and degraded even though she has perfectly rational reasons for freaking out. Exploiting gender roles is a tool on the human trafficking chart. Pulling away from all that, back to domestic violence in general, Massimo is likened to nature, to primal forces. So his violence and his anger is like a hurricane. He can't control himself. You're irrational and childish to fight his will. It's like screaming at the sky for it to stop raining. This is nasty and super wrong-headed. It's the kind of stuff that keeps people with violent partners of any gender for ages because they get conditioned into thinking that that's what life is. Life is enduring storms and trying not to awaken the wrath of the storm gods. But you should never be afraid or filled with dread at the thought of your significant other. You shouldn't waste your time on this planet with someone who can't treat you with respect or acts like treating you nicely is an arduous or difficult task. While I respect artists' ability to make controversial art, and I hate judging movies by their synopsis, and I don't believe movies have an obligation to model respectable or healthy behavior, I've seen 365 Days several times, and yes, it does have zero scruples and is sexist to women and men. But don't be so shallow, it's actually holistically bad. Not only do I feel that the movie handles its subject matter in a very ignorant way and displays a lack of critical thought and self-awareness, but the plot is as limp as a wet noodle and contains many continuity errors. Its protagonists are largely unmotivated and outshined by members of the supporting cast. And its editing is capable of making a film student die of secondhand embarrassment. And that's all I have to say on the matter. If you'd like to be my enabler, you can follow me on Patreon. You can ring my bell, you can change it to make sure you get all of the notifications. Comment to boost my algorithmic ranking. Please spread my video around. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe